23rd, 2019. The clerk would call the roll, please.
Council members Gaylord.
Here.
Kozlowski.
Here.
Sheldon. Aquino.
Here.
And Howell.
Here. You all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any agenda update, Mr. City Attorney?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. There are none tonight.
Except for the deletion of the,
Oh, I apologize, Madam Mayor. I was incorrect. There are two deletions from scheduled presentations. Items 6B and I believe 6D have been taken off the calendar.
Actually, 6B is going to be heard tonight.
That's the latest update, Madam Mayor.
okay, and so, and D as in dog will not be heard. Okay. Okay, and our next item is business from the floor, and I don't see any cards. Is there anybody that would like to speak to the council on anything that is not on the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing no one, we will move on to our scheduled presentations. And Vice Mayor Aquino will be delivering our first one. That is a resolution of commendation honoring Baker's Dozen Donuts on their 30th anniversary.
We're expecting this to be a short and sweet meeting with emphasis on sweet. Come on up. So, this is Richard and Sopa tape. So, whereas in July 1989, the owners of Baker's Dozen Donuts brought their love for cooking and making people happy to the city of Folsom. With a long family history of cooking in their homeland of Cambodia, they were passionate about sharing their Khmer traditions for donuts with the rest of the world, and they decided to call Folsom home. And whereas driven by their passion for the California life and inspired by the loving people of Folsom, they searched for the perfect location for their donut shop. After a long search, they decided the ideal location was in the Commonwealth Square Shopping Center on Bidwell Street. This central location has proven to be popular and convenient for nearby neighborhoods and for morning commuters. And whereas high quality has been a hallmark of their success, the shop makes its donuts fresh every morning, 7 days a week. After 30 years of bringing donuts and happiness to the community, Baker's Dozen remains a local favorite and beloved tradition, as is evident in the many happy smiles for the regulars and first-time customers alike. And whereas the second-generation family owners, Richard and Sopa Tape, are committed to operating Baker's Dozen Donuts and continuing to serve the Folsom community. Together, they have more than 20 years of baking and customer service experience, and they understand how to improve a person's day with a smile and great food. Their goal is to bring happiness and peace to the world, one delicious bite at a time. Now, therefore, I, Sarah Aquino, on behalf of the Folsom City Council and the citizens of this community, do hereby thank Baker's Dozen Donuts for being a part of the fabric of Folsom and congratulate them on their 30th anniversary.
So far.
Yeah. Well, tell us, how many donuts do you bake each day?
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sophia, and his name is Richard. He's the new owner. We are second generation of the Baker's Dozen Donut. We bake donut, I think about 1,000 donut. It's a regular day. It's more than that. Depends on. But we do have a special order. If you want, we can do up to 300 dozen if you're willing to make special order from us.
Wow.
Who's taking it? One of these millennials knows how to do all that stuff. No, you bring in the middle. No, you bring in the middle. Oh, you want to? Okay. They did bring samples, so.
Seriously, people, you're welcome to the donuts that are on the side table where the blue cards are supposed to be.
And I'm pretty sure they were actually voted #1 donut shop in California by Yelp, too. Wow. So it's pretty good, yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, and we will now move on to 6B, presentation from Vista Del Lago High School student graduate, Abby Fenton, on the SACOG Youth Leadership Academy project. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City
Is the
Council
principal at
members.
Vista Del Lago in the room tonight?
She should be.
Yeah, she should be.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Abby Fenton, and I was asked by Councilmember Kozlowski to share my presentation from the SACOG Youth Leadership Academy with you all tonight. So this is my presentation on encouraging carpooling in high schools. To give you some background on the angle I'm coming from, I have lived in and gone to public schools in Folsom for my entire life. I am a recent graduate from Vista Del Lago, and I am headed to UC Berkeley in the fall. And this is just a disclaimer to let you know there's going to be a slight bias towards Vista Del Lago, as those are the issues I'm most keenly aware about. I'm not able to speak as well to Folsom High. And I created this project as a part of SACOG's incredible Youth Leadership Academy, where we learned about transportation, city planning, air pollution, and affordable housing as it relates to SACOG's regional development initiatives. Now I would like to break down transportation options that we have available and some problems with them. So options available to students are to have an adult drop them off, to drive their own car and park in the student parking lot, to take the Folsom City Bus, to walk, to bike, and to take the school bus. Unfortunately, all of these modes of transportation have their drawbacks. Being dropped off has led to large amounts of congestion at Vista, making it so some students have to exit the vehicle in undesignated drop-off areas in order to make it to class on time. The lack of student parking at Vista has led to a huge problem, as we probably are all aware of, where many students are unable to get parking passes and left with limited options with restrictions on street and neighborhood parking. Taking the Folsom bus is a decent option. However, it is not well known among students, and it requires students who live relatively close to campus to get up significantly earlier than they would typically have to in order to catch the bus. Versus it would take significantly less time if they were to simply be dropped off by their parents or drive themselves. Additionally, walking is a decent option for those who live nearby. However, because Vista sits on top of a hill in almost all directions, it's not quite so easy. Similarly, because of this giant hill, it's not feasible to bike because most students would be physically incapable of getting up the hill. And for those who are athletes, there are only 2 bike racks available on campus. And the school bus offers an extremely limited route and schedule. I believe that all of these smaller problems relate to the broader issue that residents of Folsom are completely dependent on their own car to get them from place to place. In terms of school transportation, this norm contributes to many students and families who live in relatively close local neighborhoods to drive independently to school at usually the same time. While there are several potential solutions to these issues, I believe that carpooling would be the most feasible because it builds off the already established dependence on cars. We're just asking people to pick up a few others on their way instead of asking them to completely change their transportation norms by asking them to, instead of take a car, take a bus, for instance. This then leads us to the guiding question of how can we encourage students and families to carpool to school? I believe that the most ideal solution is to incorporate a user-friendly application for coordinating carpool groups with an incentive-based program. Out-of-the-box applications already exist for coordinating carpooling. However, widespread solutions that include an incentive system are not in place. One of these carpooling applications, called GoKid, can be managed by the school. It works by the school adding families to the application. Then families receive a registration key where they can sign up. After they sign up, they can view a map and see others nearby, where they can create carpool groups. They can get suggestions on routes, get passenger and driver information, and time schedules. And though there are not carpooling reward systems in place, there are other applications for other use cases that I believe would be very effective. This app, called Pocket Points, is implemented at universities across the country to encourage students to stay off their phones during class and while driving. Users simply open the app, lock their phone, and as long as they keep their phone locked, they accrue points. These points can then be redeemed at local restaurants, shops, and entertainment centers. With these tangible rewards, I believe that both students and families would be encouraged to carpool if they weren't already willing. Of course, there are barriers to implementing this type of solution. Most obvious is that there is not a current widespread solution that integrates both carpool coordinating and rewards that is built to be administered by schools. There is a program for San Mateo County that links Waze carpooling, or Scoop, another carpooling app, to a rewards program of e-gift cards that is intended for commuters. This is funded by a few local grants. Also, most of the applications that can be managed by schools require a fee, which range depending on the application and number of users. So GoKid would fall under this category. School administration may have to support setup and occasional management of the application. Importantly, students and families have to be bought into this idea for it to be effective, which will result from a proper incentive system. If the application was to follow the Pocket Points model, it would require the support of local businesses to provide rewards. And as always, there are also liability and legality issues that the school would also need to consider. One specific legality issue is that minors who have had their license for less than 12 months are not allowed to drive other minors. One exception to this law is if there is a note signed by the principal allowing one student to drive another if, quote, reasonable transportation is not available. Since this would require significant tracking and management by the school to stay in proper compliance with the law, and would significantly inconvenience many student drivers needing this paperwork, this would noticeably limit the engagement of student drivers in the carpooling system, since about half the student drivers are in this provisional license stage. Thus, it is my recommendation that this limit on driving other minors should be removed and reverted back to its pre-2006 stage when this part of the law was not in place in order for this carpooling program to be most effective. Some local impacts of this carpooling program include reducing congestion at Vista and mitigating the massive student parking problem that has resulted in a black market for parking passes. It would also move the city of Folsom towards its guiding principles for providing a range of attractive transportation modes and recognition as one of the smartest cities in the region by fostering connection between schools and local businesses. Broader impacts include providing families who need it with a viable transportation mode, reducing greenhouse gas emission, reducing wear and tear on roads, promoting friendships and fostering a sense of community, and importantly, exposing young people to alternative modes of transportation with the chance that they will continue these habits for the rest of their lives. Thank you very much for your attentive listening. Are there any questions?
Great presentation.
Thank you.
I do want to tell you that RT is working very hard now that the City of Folsom bus system's been annexed by RT to modify the existing bus routes so that there's more attention paid in the morning and the afternoon to getting students to Vista, Folsom High School, and Folsom Middle, because there's not a lot of bus routes at any of those locations now. So RT's working with our staff on that. So, but your presentation was amazing.
Thank you.
That's really great. The question I have has to do with something you mentioned about funding from a San Mateo County grant for something in this vicinity. What else do you know about that?
So this program was in place. It's called Carpool 2.0. It's kind of a fun name. So it is funded by the local congestion relief fund and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And this funding runs out either once they run out or at the end of the year. So this is not a long-term solution. This is just one system in place. And I looked and I could not find anything else that connected incentives and carpooling systems. There's lots and lots of applications that provide help to coordinate this carpooling, but they're lacking that piece of actually incentivizing people to do it.
Gotcha. Seems like a good opportunity for Power School to get into carpooling, since they're right
And
here.
My only other question with regard to changing the state law that now prohibits high school students from carpooling with one another, have you attempted to get a hold of, as an example, Assemblymember Kiley?
I have not regarding that issue.
You might want to try that because he's
Okay.
generally very responsive. I'll be very surprised if you don't get a call back.
Okay.
And I like your incentive program. This is really exciting, and I think this is what gets a lot of folks' attention and thinking outside of the box. I would actually expand further, and if that was actually to come to fruition and have that application and having safe driving be able to accrue points too. So if you stay within a speed limit in a certain zone and your phone's locked, then you accrue points that way. If you go over the speed limit, stuff like that. So I really like your thought process on it. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great job. So the youth, the SACOG Youth Leadership Academy, the homework assignment that they were given was find a project where you can have an impact on public transportation and car trips. And I think this is absolutely perfect and a really, really, really well done job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment because I can't resist after 4 years on the school board. Yeah, fantastic presentation. You characterized it as a lack of parking at Vista. I might characterize it a little bit differently. I live 0.2 miles.
Abundance of automobiles.
What's that?
An abundance of automobiles.
Well, yeah, because I live 0.2 miles from Vista, and there are kids, not my kids, but kids in my neighborhood who have parking passes.
Yep.
And we'll never have enough parking if kids within a half mile of the school are driving to school, right? Speaking of incentives, one of my ideas when I was on the school board was, let's give kids PE credit for walking or riding to school, right?
I would do that.
Thank you, good job.
Thank you.
Nice job, Abby, and from one Cal Bear to another. Go Bears.
Sarah, I do like the PE credit idea, though. Again, I think the principal should have been here tonight. So our next item is introduction of high school and college interns, and I believe the city manager is going to handle that.
Yeah, so this is a new item for our agenda, and I wanted to invite our City of Folsom summer high school and college interns to come introduce themselves tonight, and I intend to do this annually. So if you are an intern and you're not already in the front row, if you could move to the front row, that would be great. I myself am a product of internships. My first internship was as a 16-year-old high school student. I completed 5 internships throughout my high school and college years, and those experiences helped me to figure out what type of work I excelled at, the type of work that challenged me, the type of work that I loved, and even the type of work I didn't like very much. An effective and successful internship program, which I think the City of Folsom has, is really a two-way street. We give to them in terms of our supervision and time and experience, and the students give right back to us in terms of their enthusiasm and their service, and their reminders to us as to what drew us to this field in the first place. And sometimes we need to be reignited in that way, and this youthful energy really helps us to do that. So in my book, that's really an 100% win-win. With that, I will ask our interns to step forward and just briefly introduce themselves. And I'd like to lead off with Sienna Hansen, who is actually an intern in my office, in the city manager's office, and she is the co-creator of our lovely city flag, which is down there on the very end of the dais. So Sienna, if you could step up, that'd be great.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name, like Elaine said, is Sienna Hansen, and I'm a college intern in City Manager's office, and I've been assisting in the Communications Department. I recently graduated from Vista Del Lago High School, and in August I'll be attending William Jessup University studying English and psychology. The past couple of months have been a really incredible experience for me. I've learned a lot, and I've learned about what I'm good at, like Elaine said, and what I'm not, and it's been an amazing experience. I've been a part of planning Community Service Day, and I've helped in editing and updating the city website. I've learned a lot about social media and citywide communications, and I've contributed to writing and editing many of the city's newsletters. After college, I look forward to having a similar career in communications or professional writing, and I want to thank the city for this opportunity to get experience and learn skills on the job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your contributions to the city while you were here. Thank you for all of your contributions to the city while you were here.
Of course, thank you.
Good evening. My name is J.R. Holliday, and I'm a rising senior at Folsom High School. And I interned at the Folsom City Police Department as part of the Career Technical Education Summer Preceptorship. And I spent only 2 weeks there, but I was able to job shadow every department in there, and I got a very good look at the behind-the-scenes work that was done there, and it really helped me understand more of the policies in the police department. And I plan on going into government and policy-making work, so this was a very good tactile experience in the public sector.
That's great.
Thank you for your service.
Anthony?
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Anthony Zui. I am a graduate of Vista del Lago High School. I'm going to be going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in the fall, and I'm interning right now at the Water Conservation Department down there in the courtyard. So I've learned a lot in the past couple weeks. I'm going to be going into environmental science, so this really helps me learn about my field, and I've decided that, or it's basically helped me strengthen my resolve for the field that I am interested in. And I wanted to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to intern here and learn more about myself and about the working field. I'm going to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Tommy Parks, PD intern. So this fall, I will be a senior at CSU Chico, majoring in public administration. The last few weeks, I've been interning at the police department with Commander Browning. I've been working on...
That apparently means there's been enough time since your dad's retirement that they forgot.
Right, yeah. Well, I've been still hearing a lot of stories. So the legend lives on. But been doing a lot of work with the fleet and the vehicle inventory, trying to transition the vehicle radios from analog, transitioning into digital. So, but I am joined by my parents who currently and have formerly worked for the city of Folsom. So.
And that, I think you're discounting all of your time that you spent before this internship. Tell us what else you did.
I've also worked for the Aquatic Center for 10 years. So I've been there for a couple years, yeah.
He's almost ready for retirement.
I know. So.
Thank you for everything you've done.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grab a donut on the way.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Arushi Agarwal, and I came from the Career Technical Education Summer Preceptorship Program, just like JR. I worked with the IT department at the City of Folsom. It was a wonderful experience. I worked specifically under GIS, which is Geographic Interconnected Systems, and I was able, much of the work I was given had to do with coding, creating Python scripts to automate certain tasks. I also got to work with this program called ArcGIS Pro, where I was able to configure maps of Folsom, such as Parks of Folsom map, and it was a wonderful experience. I learned a lot, and I want to go into a computer engineering as my future career choice. So it really helped me develop more of an interest towards that. So I had a pleasure working with the City of Folsom. It was a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Mariam Mohammed, and this June, I interned at the City of Folsom Parks and Rec Department and the Police Department through the Career Technical Education Preceptorship Program. And at the Parks and Rec Department, I worked on projects such as the Parkway Trails Project and the Lowry Memorial Bench Project. And at the Police Department, I shadowed all the different aspects of the Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your service, and I just want to let the council know this represents probably about 20% of our total interns. There are many more interns throughout all of our departments. And I also wanted to acknowledge Alicia Cadell with the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, who's here, who helps coordinate this amazing high school preceptorship program that many of the students referred to. So thank you.
Thank you. So our next item is 6E, Parks and Rec Commission response to the City Council regarding shade structures over playgrounds.
All right, thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Romero, Chair of our Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here tonight representing the commission on what I think is quite an important issue because it highlights a number of things that the commission is facing right now. Obviously, you referred this to us for discussion, and June 4th we did discuss it quite extensively. The commission had a number of concerns that they wanted to address. They wanted to define the extent and significance of the problem and put it in relationship to other things that are happening in the city as in reference to parks and recreation. They also wanted to identify the priority of new or added amenities in relation to existing priorities. Thirdly, they wanted to identify costs and revenue sources associated with the construction of new parks already promised to residents and the renovation of existing facilities which sorely need replacement or renovation. Finally, they wanted to evaluate the need to conduct an updated master plan and needs assessment of parks facilities, including public input associated with that. Specifically to the topic, the cost of the shade shelter was not budgeted, which really highlighted a problem that we've been addressing on a number of issues. We've had a number of community members come in and ask for amenities, and we were unable to respond to their requests because of the funding problems that we're currently having. Current available funding sources for this project cannot use the existing funding sources that are available to the commission. Quimby Act monies and park impact fees are associated with major capital and usually tied to a contract of some nature. Currently, there are 11 undeveloped parks and 11 unfinished parks in the current Parks and Recreation Master Plan, requiring about $30 million investment. There's also a $25 million need for renovation of the current park system with no current funding source available. And you can see that there's a variety of issues. Adding a shade structure to existing structure would be costly, ranging from $28,000 for standalone pole structures to $100,000 for shade sales. These estimates have come from staff and were presented to the commission. The effectiveness of shade structures is not an all-day event. And staff has a video that we'll share with you after my presentation as to what that means. Basically, as the earth moves across this daily, the shade is going to move accordingly. So you're not going to have a structure covered 100% of the time. In fact, you'll probably have it covered maybe 20% of the time. The shade, the play equipment, I should say. So the commission recommended not adding shade shelters at this time. Collectively and unanimously, the commission prepared a letter which you have in your packet tonight. That really was designed to define the extent and significance of the issue, identify the priority of shade shelters in relationship to all park amenities, identify costs and revenue sources, and evaluate the need to prepare an updated master plan. Difficult issue. Having a specific request come from the council and not being able to give you a positive reaction. The commission struggled with that. So they concluded that due to funding deficiencies that currently exist to address the approved and planned parks along with the lack of apparent funding for maintenance and renovations, the next suggested actions is where they focused on. There's a need to obtain funding to conduct a needs assessment involving the community. This assessment should measure demand and need and include surveys, establish priorities, and measure use patterns. And those terms were used specifically. Surveys are really required to understand the changing needs in the community. And the surveys need to be done in an unbiased manner, which would require an outside consultant to do so. Priorities are shifting. As you proposed in this project, that it would be a shift in priorities. We'd have to take one project and reduce funding towards it, basically changing what is currently promised to the community to add a new project in. We don't have unlimited funds, unfortunately. And the use patterns are quite interesting because they change. We're finding that as some projects are made available to our community, we find people from other communities coming in and taking advantage of them. How we address that, I don't know, but we certainly need to measure them. The commission suggests that we update and evaluate the park's master plan. That can be done internally. And the last master plan was done in, I believe, 2015. It's only 4 years old. So it's relatively recent, but there is a need to look at it in context to what's happening today. The commission also believes that we need to evaluate funding strategies to implement the updated plan, as well as assess the community's willingness to pay for park capital improvements and renovations. That's a new element because we are seeing a reduction in our available funding sources. We've been dependent upon impact fees and Quimby Act monies to fund the development of our park, especially the capital improvements that you're seeing today. The estimate is that that funding source will last for another 2 to 3 years. So we need to address the future. The commission is also suggesting that you as the council direct staff to prepare a cost estimate to update the Park and Recreation Master Plan and Needs Assessment and further investigate possible funding sources, including public and private opportunities to execute the effort. In closing, as the city approaches build out north of Highway 50, it's apparent that a new funding source is needed. No funds are currently available to expand capacity. This project really highlights that problem. We'd have to shift money from an existing project, which may impact one portion of the community, to provide enhancements to another portion of the community. Consequently, we run the risk of managing an incomplete and deteriorating system at a cost of declining quality of life and loss of public trust. Likely, use of parks on the north side of Highway 50 will shift to the south, where newer parks will become more attractive when compared to aging facilities. At this point, I would like to ask Lorraine to come up and show you the analysis they did in reference to the changing dynamics on a daily basis, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, and City Council. Lorraine Pagoni with Parks and Rec. Let me get this out. So what this shows is we had a simulation done of Economy Park. This was one of the parks that we actually had considered adding a shade sales over the play structure, and given the cost of the shade sales, it was not in the budget. So what you'll see here is a timeline of 5 hours, so from noon till 5 p.m., so it starts at noon. And this was done on July 19th of either last year or the year before, but just showing how shade at one moment is indeed over the structure, and then as the time frame continues through the day, you end up not having that shade over your structure. So it slowly just moves out from underneath that play structure. So it's just a short video, but it's just an illustration of what the dynamic is with having shade directly over a structure.
So on the shades, when they're installed and designed, they're designed to go with the sun, so that the hottest point of the day, the equipment is blocked by the sun or by the shade, correct?
Not necessarily, because they're always going to be directly over your structure. So essentially noon-ish, right? And then the hottest time of the day tends to be 2, 3, or 4. So you couldn't quite structure unless you had some unique, maybe hillside design or something. You couldn't probably navigate a shade structure that would capture that hot part for multiple hours.
Can
Any
I
other
ask
questions?
a clarifying question? Paul's presentation and the letter that the commission wrote to the council said that Quimby fees could not be used for something like shade structures, but the staff report to the park commission said it could be.
Well, it cannot be used, Quimby fees cannot be used to renovate something. So if we were to take a structure and it was a brand new structure that we were building, we were actually putting in a new structure, that could be it, but this would be a renovation, adding them. And the question or the ask to staff and then to the commission was, how can we start adding shade to existing structures?
Okay, and you couldn't use Quimby fees for that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So my other question in rereading and reading this letter, I don't know if it's if the issue is big is looked at bigger than it should be. My question is, I don't understand why we can't pick a few parks that are having the most impact from sun and implement those over a long, even if it is a long period of time, not looking at this as a reinventing the $30 million wheel, or what do we have to give up to do this, because it's the variation from 28,000 to 100,000, and then the variation from all the parks versus 3 parks, you know what I mean, and over time. I think that's what reading this, I feel like we bypassed that suggestion from the last council meeting and went into a full-blown redesign everything, and how do we not fund it type scenario, because you have a lot on your plate and your commission has to delegate what's important in your eyes, in the community's eyes, versus the money available, right? I just feel like this blows this completely out of proportion. Instead of looking at it, it looks like it's a bureaucratic view of, finding a couple of parks to add.
Good point. We did grapple with that in the subcommittee. And what we realized was, where do you start? So you have almost like a chicken and egg thing. You're thinking, okay, we have the request on the table for shade, but again, it doesn't fit anywhere in the priorities that have already been established. So it's almost like you can't just extract. I mean, if there was plenty of money, I think we could say, hey, let's do a trial run and do this. But we'd be extracting dollars that are already allocated for things that are planned and programmed to even do a trial run over here.
And that's where I feel like
park.
the park master plan going forward would definitely be something we need to consider in understanding that aspect. But renovating a few parks that we determine, or staff determines, or even a consultant determines would benefit the most in the community, maybe one in each area, so that there is some relief from direct sunlight for children to be able to have that. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to reinvent everything, just to go back and do a few things here and there to see if it's something the community likes. I think it is. I think I hear from parents, I hear from folks, and my kids, myself in general. It just seems like we're pushing something way bigger than handling something that's pretty small.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. In a sense, you're right. I do understand the problem and the conflict. Part of the challenge is the funding availability. This could be done, but it would take general fund money. The funding sources, one is created by state law, and it's very specific. The other one is created by contract. It's an alternative to the Quimby Act, which is established based on the council's discretion. In both cases, they're used for capital improvements and construction. If, in fact, the shade shelter was put in initially as part of a development, then those funding sources could be used. You cannot, according to both of these sources of funding, extract money that was dedicated to a park development and shift it to another park, because you're dealing with an assessment that was put in on one community and you're shifting it to another. So that's a subtle part of the problem. And the rest of it was all highlighted as a result of the discussion. We realized we don't have an opportunity to do the kind of things you're asking because of the limitations of funds.
And I think it's great that you're looking at, and sorry, I'll let you go. I think it's great. This does need to be looked at. I just don't feel like, and I'm aware of the fact that we need to, allocate, or we would allocate general funds to add it to existing parks, and we can, the goal was to hopefully identify just a few parks to look at and see where this would benefit, but then taking this and moving forward, establishing a new, Parks Master Plan or updated Parks Master Plan to, focus on adding shade on new parks, then yeah, for sure. But I feel like there's two scenarios here, not one scenario, and I don't want, this is the reason I had an issue with it going, not because I don't want it to go to the Parks Commission, but I feel like the small, easily or tangible thing that we could do with some of the parks is going to get lopped in, or grouped into this big project because of the cost. So if you say, it's going to be $2.8 million that we don't have to renovate the old parks, then everyone's going to say, yeah, that's just too much, we're not going to do it. But if you look at 2 or 3 parks at $28,000 or even $50,000 over time, establishing that in the general plan, then that's what I want to look at.
Well, and in that regard, if there were a funding source, the commission would have probably a different recommendation. What we're faced with now is taking money from an existing project or a project that's already been funded and planned for, where we already have priority, and shifting it to a new project. And that's the challenge that we're facing. Commission is very, very talented. You have some outstanding people on the commission, very deep thinkers who are dedicated to making Folsom a better community than it is.
No
I
doubt.
mean, I love Folsom, quite frankly. I've had a choice to live in many communities, and Folsom was my choice. So I'm proud to be part of your commission. But it is a challenge to look at new projects that haven't been planned for. And that's why we're so committed to helping you come up with a new funding source that doesn't put us in this conundrum. And that's something we hope we can address and bring back to you for further discussion.
So here's my question. Is it the role of the Parks Commission to seek out funding sources? And I guess that's for our city manager. Because it feels to me like we've bundled together several issues here. The ask from Councilman Gaylord was, if we had funding, where would be the best place to do some shade structures, and what characteristics might those take? And what we've gotten, rightly probably, is feedback that, well, we just don't have any money, so we're not going to look at that.
No, we looked at it. It was.
So where would you put them if you had funding, if this was not an issue?
I'm gonna add to that question.
Yeah.
You're asking a specific question, like, did the Parks Commission make recommendations of if we had funding, where would they put them?
No, what I'm suggesting is that we've bundled the questions together and not answered the original one.
Okay, so
that's all.
The way I read the documentation back from the Parks and Rec Department and the Commission is that A, there is no funding, B, there's $30 million minimum shortfall on planned and not yet built and unfinished parks, another $25 million in the renovation fund. And the way I read this, so not only is there not money to build shade structures, the Parks and Rec Commission and the staff, up to this point and including this document, doesn't think they're necessary.
Well, and that's kind of the issue, and where you're going to is we're grouping a lot of things into one thing, and I don't necessarily know if it's, I don't think we have enough information to understand. I mean, we have you listed $30 million here, and then we have things like to obtain current, more accurate understanding of needs of the community, whether that be soccer fields, bocce ball courts, or shade structures. How would the commission determine that's not a need that the community wants? You know what I mean? So we can't, I don't know why the small, I'm trying to formulate this to where it's not, I think you said it best. It's being wrapped into one big package, and it's easy to just push off.
Yeah, so
Councilmember
can I renew my question
Yeah.
as far as the Parks Commission's role in finding funding? Is that really their assignment?
The Parks Commission role is to work within the structure that is handed to them to implement the Parks Master Plan.
Gotcha.
So
And
they
to update it periodically.
Right, and so, and it sounds, my understanding and my reading of the letter was that, they're basically saying that if they were to consider shade, they would want to work within the context of a revised Parks Master Plan to consider that. Now, if you're talking about, there are two funding sources that are the typical funding sources for parks projects, which are not appropriate for this use, and so the commission is acknowledging that. If this is a priority of this city council, when we are in budget workshop mode, next year, it can absolutely be a direction to me when you're asking, is it their role to find funding? No, it is not their role to find funding. But if the direction of this dais to me is to take a look at that general fund pie and find a slice for shade, then that's what I build into the budget. So that's just a different conversation.
I just wanted to clarify that because where I'm going with this is the Park Master Plan is relatively fresh. However, a majority of the council members were not sitting here when it was approved originally, and certainly there's probably enough time and water under the bridge, so to speak, to take another look at it, because we do have the funding disconnect between what is master planned and what is available funding. So there is
But that's one thing that has not changed.
That's a whole separate issue.
That's one thing that hasn't changed since the Parks and Rec Commission was formed. That's been a constant. There's way more things than we want than we have money to pay for.
Right, and I just think that at least to the extent that, during the recent budget discussions, there are some things that are within that master plan that probably do not make sense in the context of the funding that's available. So whether or not that means that funding becomes available for shade structures, I don't know, but I just think we've combined these two discussions here maybe a little prematurely.
And that's what the Parks Commission is essentially saying.
Gotcha.
Is that it's time to look at the master plan, add projects such as this in context with everything else, eliminate projects that are currently there, or at least portions of those that are no longer needed in our community. But our roadmap is the Park Master Plan, and that's what we work with on an annual basis.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to say something. I'd like to say a lot. I spent 20 years of my life on the Park Commission in this town. And what I'm hearing tonight, it just sets me off really internally. First of all, to answer Mike, yes, it is the part of the commission to worry about money, okay? In my 20 years as a park commissioner, the council didn't worry about money. We worried about money. We brought programs and ideas to them. If they were good, they approved them. They had other things to do. I am absolutely against you going and doing another master plan update. So let me give you the first, a little history. I'm not going to preach, because my son said, Dad, don't preach, okay? I'm just going to give information.
No, I think that was Madonna. She said, Papa, don't preach.
Okay, same thing. Back in 1985, when I came here, 86, I got on the Park Commission. The first thing we did is sat down in an employee of Park and Rec, 6 of the commissioners sat in the front room on our butts, and we wrote the master plan that went into the 1988 master plan for the city. Okay, that was 6 people. Since that time, because people say committed commissioners can't do that, we paid 3 times to have a consultant come and look at the plan that Layman created, and they didn't change nothing. All we did was spend money unnecessarily, and it'll be the same thing if you do it again. We just haven't finished the master plan, okay? And every time I hear people saying we're going to review it again, what that tells me, because we don't have the money, we're going to cut things. If a park needs certain things to provide the services to the town that it's serving and the locations where they're at, if you don't have the money, you don't cut them and make your program look great. That's wrong. You go out and find the money. okay? You just go out and find the money, and you're convinced if you got a real purpose, you will find the money. The first thing we had to do in 1986 to get a land change that gave us 5 acres per 1,000 population that was level. Everything that the city got prior to that time was either on a hill or in a gutter or in a ravine. We never got land that we could build a park on. 1986, the city council passed an ordinance that corrected that problem. But then we had no money. You got $400 a house that was built. That was the only impact fee you got. So we worked hard, and it didn't happen until 1992 where we got the first $1,700 per house. It was $1,000 short at that time, but it was better than zero or 400, okay? So this is strictly a problem of money. It's not a problem of needs. The thing hasn't changed. Go around and look at our parks. Our parks are fulfilled. People are in our parks. Family are using our parks. Come join me in my aquatic class and look at all the kids using the aquatic center. We don't have a problem other than we just ran out of money. Because where we were getting $1,700, the same developer building a house here was given $10,000 in other locations for the same house. We did a lousy job in making them pay the proper rate. We ran out of money, okay? And we never found it. At one time, we had a $19 million shortfall in our park funding because we didn't have an aquatic center, we didn't have a senior center, we didn't have a teen center. We didn't have a sports complex. $19 million, but guess what? Today we got every one of those things. So I challenge the Park Commission, don't think of money. Think of what is really needed to make this town what it turned out to be. We should thank the millions, it's a big, not millions, but there's a lot of people in the army of people that were the park commissioners and city council people that made this happen. This is a miracle. What we did with the little money that we actually did is a miracle, okay? There's no reason to dismantle this. What we got to do is sit down and think creative, out of the box, whatever, pass Measure E again, this time do it right. We didn't do it right. You know it. I know it. A lot of people in here that was on the committee know it. We did it wrong. Okay? Now with this council, let's do it right.
Ernie, I'm going to try to bring this back to what we're actually talking about here.
Yeah, but I'm saying, we're talking, well, no, I'm concerned what Mike just said. Take a look at it and eliminate things. No, we don't have to eliminate a darn thing. Okay? That master plan that you got is adequate. Every time we have something like Roger wants shades, fine. If we could have done it back in 1986, we would have done it.
Well, we could have done it. It just wasn't a.
No, we couldn't.
Ernie, I'm just.
So if I could just reframe my comment for clarity, because I clearly hit a hot button inadvertently. My interest in revisiting the park master plan is not to change the vision that has been in place for a long time. I also, like our esteemed colleague from the Parks Commission, chose to live in Folsom when I had lots of other opportunities to go someplace else. And in part, it was because we have a spectacular park system here. And Mr. Sheldon, one of the very first times I ever met you, you were reading the long list of people that you had buttonholed into contributing to the sports field for the Junior Bulldogs. And I didn't think you were ever going to get to the end of the list. So if there is anybody that can find funding, I'm confident that you and others can do that. All I was trying to make the point is that, as was pointed out, we have a significant disconnect between what the vision is and what has been identified and the timing of certain construction projects relative to the funding that's available. And I am a pragmatist and realist, and that was all I was getting at with my comment.
And Sarah's been
And I'll
waiting.
leave it there.
Thank you, Sarah.
This is a very simple question. So I realize that going back and putting shade over parks north of 50 is a challenge because of the lack of funding and the restrictions on what sources you can use. And quite frankly, you know, I probably wouldn't support taking general fund money to go put shade north of 50. But in your letter to the council, you also say that the cost of shade is also not currently included in the budgeting for parks in the Folsom Plan area, so south of 50. So my question is, are you starting to plan what the parks are going to look like south of 50? And if shade isn't included, not necessarily in every park, but let's just say 1 out of 3 or something like that, is that a choice that you've made that it's not high on the priority list of the commission, or why would that decision have been made already?
No, we are moving forward with the planning on the parks south of 50. Staff is bringing projects forward to us periodically, and we address them. In the master plan, specific plan, if you will, there are a list of things that can happen in those parks. Shade shelters are not on the list. So if we want,
And you mean as a separate item from from tree canopies?
Yeah, shade shelters, if you will, over play equipment. Okay, that's not a common practice in the profession. We would be a pioneer, if you will, if that happens in the city of Folsom. So we have to update the specific plan or the master plan to include that amenity if we are going to fund it. I mean, that part of the funding strategy is tied to having a project that meets the plan needs. So that's the idea behind updating the master plan, not changing it, not changing where parks are at, either adding or deleting amenities to a specific park area. It's not a common practice to put shade shelters over play equipment. Doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, it's just not a common practice.
Okay, but what you're saying is that if there was an appetite to try this out, to put a shade over play structure south of 50, the commission has to amend the specific plan.
I'd have
That's what
to
you're saying.
let staff
I don't believe we're that far in south of 50. We got a long ways to go.
Maybe I could ask our city attorney to weigh in on that.
Thank you, Madam. And Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, it's not so simple as amending the specific plan. The council can certainly amend the specific plan, but the funding component is not in the specific plan itself. It's in the PFFP. So we'll have to look into a nexus study through Finance Department to figure out if there's a nexus that will allow us to update the fees in the PFFP, because every park south of 50 is
That's a whole separate
factored.
issue. All we're talking about right now is design of the parks. So I believe the answer is no, the parks have not been completely designed. So yes, the commission, when they come forward with individual parks, can give consideration to whether or not they want to put physical shade structures as opposed to tree canopies over the in various locations within the park. I think what this really comes down to is that this council had a discussion about whether to find general fund money during the budgeting process to retrofit shade structures in existing parks north of the freeway. The council chose not to do that during the budget process, and as a gesture to Councilmember Gaylord, we sent it back to the Parks Commission to get input from the Parks Commission as to whether or not they perceived that additional of shade structures over playground equipment to be a priority. And my reading of this letter is, right now, the Parks Commission does not see it to be a priority.
And the other
That's
part
what
of
we
that,
asked
though,
for.
is it wasn't more, the gesture, I think, it's not served well because we're conflating the two. There's a big issue with what you're saying. If we want to have other focuses, and then we should update the master plan. So I agree with that. If we're looking at, there's no definitive number on what we can and can't do. So the cost of retrofitting parks north of 50 goes from $6,000 up to $89,000. So there's a huge delta in between those two. So still we're left with, I as a council member am left with the question, A, how much does it cost? And B, can we do it? Like, what parks need it? It keeps getting compiled into this big, massive thing.
Roger, we've gotten some answers, specific answers to, with regard to estimates as to what it would cost per park to add shade structures. There's even examples in the staff report as to what those look like, the single ones versus the shade cells. The information's in here.
No, I
We have
read
that
the
information
but
when we
you're-
discussed it at the budget level, and the council chose not to pull money out of the general fund to do this. And
We
we
chose
thought
it because
moving
it was-
forward, we would refer it back to the Parks Commission and get their input. We now have their input. It doesn't appear to be at the top of their priority list. So the way I see it, we can have this conversation again next year when we're getting ready for next year's budget.
Well, this is the third year now.
And I know, Roger, you keep asking the question, but so far, whenever you've asked the question, you haven't had the support of your colleagues or the Parks Department.
Well, so I don't have the support of my colleagues a lot of times. It doesn't mean it's not important, but the problem is that you're giving something to a commission who has a long laundry list of things they need to do with very little money. And so in the grand scheme of things, I'm sure this probably isn't as important as other things on your list, and it's just not fair to this opportunity for the community.
It's no different than what we had to do with our budget. We have an even longer list of things to do with also a limited amount of funds. And the 5 council members here chose not to take 6,000 or 160,000 out of the general plan, out of the general fund.
5
to
didn't.
put toward
4 did.
whatever the number was. We chose not to take any money out of the general fund and put it to shade structures. And we wanted to get input from the Parks Department to see where we were moving forward.
Don't you agree? Okay, so just let me ask you this. From the figures here, we don't know if the $6,000 shade structure would benefit a park versus an $89,000 shade structure. So how can we, as a council, decide where to move forward on anything? There's nothing detailed on here. So I know there's numbers in here, but there is nothing definitive or anything in here. And
I have my opinions because I know where these structures are, and thank you, Lorraine, and the park staff for putting together that video. But as Lorraine said, you're going to get full shade over a piece of playground equipment for 45 minutes or an hour.
That's just not true. I don't believe that
It
at
is
all.
true.
I've seen personally.
Go sit at a park and watch what the sun
I
does.
have an 8-year-old and I have a 16-year-old who
Okay.
is now fully grown. But I've been at the parks and there is ample shade depending on how they're designed. The problem is we haven't gone and looked at how to design it and how much an actual design would cost for an actual park. That's it. We just put it on the top of the list for the commission to discuss with everything else in their bucket of things they need to do.
Clearly, I jinxed this by saying it was going to be a short and sweet meeting, so grab a donut, folks. So I think that the challenge, Roger, is it's kind of a what comes first, a chicken or an egg, right? Do we have the staff go do all of this research and try to find specific numbers when we're not sure that there is enough support on the council to take general fund money to, I think, to pay for some shade north of 50. I think that, to me, is the challenge. It's, because if there's not that support, then that's kind of an exercise in futility.
It wouldn't be hard to find, and I could go find the park I'll go to all the parks and look at it. It wouldn't be hard to find one to see this is the one that needs the most, right? And then design something for that one and give me a specific number on what it would cost so that we can actually all vote on something that's tangible. So if they come to us and say, right now it's 6,000 to 90,000. If they come to us and say this park to cover it for this amount of time would cost $15,000, that is a drop in the bucket for us to decide to make an enhancement for the community, which most parents want. So that's all I'm saying, and it goes back to I totally agree with your point, but it goes back into making this a bigger issue than it should be. It seems very simple to do that. It's not that much time out of in the grand scheme of things.
If I could, Councilmember Gaylord, that was one of the issues that the subcommittee addressed is it takes staff time, maybe a consultant time to evaluate those parks. No one has come forward and said, hey, can you please look at these 2 parks or these 3 parks? It's an open slate. We have 47 parks. So where do you start? And then if you choose one versus another, it really does take community input. So that's why we decided to take a few steps back and say really the right way to do this is to do a needs assessment where it really engages the community. And a needs assessment goes through a bevy of kind of a pick list of items. Do you like dog parks? Do you like spray parks? Is light important to you? Is shade important? And shade wasn't in the 2006 needs assessment. We used the 2006 needs assessment to update the 2015 master plan, so it wasn't completely fresh, but at the time, it appeared to still reflect the needs of our citizens. So we did struggle with this of, can we just extract for a moment and find a park and give that some energy and time, but then that translates into staff time, money, a request of general fund, and then we've really kind of short-changed the system a little bit because we haven't had the time and the energy to look at it holistically like it should be.
Isn't that a chicken and egg argument, though? If we're to give the city manager instruction, say we all do come to consensus that we want a shade structure at Ernie Sheldon Park, how are we ever going to be able to give instruction to the city manager if we don't investigate what the cost of that particular
We have
Council-
investigated.
project
Yeah,
is?
Councilmember
To add
Kozlowski, given that it's really at this point, it's general fund dollars that would pay for this. Again, if we bring it back, if you at the workshop, if you collectively tell me, we would like you to come back with the top, 3, top 10, whatever it is, you tell me tell us which parks need shade and why, and spend money to do so, then I would come back with a budget proposal saying that.
And that's part of
And
the
it
issue
would,
I
and it
have
would,
is
and
that-
it would include where the money, what other projects or facilities or staff time, whatever it is going to be reduced based on the existing budget.
Well, yeah, it would be, my preliminary budget proposal to you would look different from this year's. Every budget is different, so next year's budget would be, something would be gone, and instead, shade would be in. That's how it works.
But you've never come, there's no staff that's ever, or item that's ever come to us for approval, which you said, I don't have the approval of my colleagues, that doesn't have a price tag on it. Right now, you have a price tag of $6,000 to $90,000.
And I think if I could just remind you that the 6,000 was a number that's what it would cost if you bought a $30,000 structure without it, and if you wanted at the time of manufacturing, add the shade component to it, that would be the 6,000. So there is no shade structure that you could buy and put over. We explained that in, I think, a couple reports out ago. That's why the 28,000 is in their presentation today. That's probably the bare minimum of a single pole, similar to what they have up in El Dorado Hills. They have the nice little kind of play, flowery-looking single pole structures there.
But I have absolutely no problem including it in next year's budget if and that's what workshops are for. That's what our budget workshop is for. So if that's the direction of the council, then that's where we'll put money.
So I just want to say, this is why it gets confusing for me, and I'll end it here, because I think I always drag this out, but it's important to me, and I want to drag it out because I think it's important for constituents. But it says retrofitting existing structures, adding integrated shade component is approximately $6,000. So what you just said is not what we're given, twice now.
No, this is no different than what Lorraine said before. If we have an existing shade structure that we bought 3 years ago, if we can call them up and say, do you still make XYZ play structure? And do you have the little umbrella that we can put over the slide?
So have we done
That's
that?
$6,000.
That's what I'm saying, but that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, well, and I'm not reading what you're reading, but I think we also said that the little kind of the little structure that goes over the top of a slide, that's the 6,000 piece. The 28,000 is the single pole structure. So I apologize, I wasn't tracking with that. But yeah, it's just the little part that would go over maybe the top of the landing of the slide was the 6,000. So we're trying to give you as much information as we can on.
Like Councilmember Gaylord, what you might see we talked about this in one of the previous meetings, like what you'd see over the Oak Chan Elementary new playground equipment, the little umbrella, it's brand new, so that was just another $6,000 add-on.
By the way, that actually provides a lot of shade. I've sat and watched that. The kids love that shade structure. And it's going to be put in most of the newer schools when they develop those, I would imagine, right? I don't know if you saw it, but
That's playground equipment that's being installed by the schools,
yeah,
not by
I
us.
understand that. I'm just saying, I just want detailed information so that I can be.
Roger, I'm afraid that you're getting detailed information, but it's not the information that you want to hear.
No, you're afraid wrong. It is not detailed information. It is information that goes from one end of the spectrum to the other, and it's not.
And we've talked
detailed.
about it 4 times, so. Does anybody else have any, do you have any other comments that you want to make? Because I want to move on.
Let me
I'm
just say
glad
one.
you want to move on because
I'm giving you an opportunity to say whatever it is you want to say, Roger.
What I want to say is I just don't want you to say, I want to move on. This is important. This is what we do. And so when I get information that, I think this is getting pushed into something a lot bigger than it should be. That's it. I want to find how much it's going to cost to do something, and I want to be able to say yes or no, and that's fine. Then I'll let it rest. But right now we're saying, no, let's let the commission take it and let them look at it. Commission comes back and says we have more important priorities from our budget standpoint, and here's what we're doing. So we need to update the master plan. I just think it's being pushed into something bigger than it should be. So.
Yeah, so, not to beat a dead horse, sorry, but, I'd be happy to look at this as part of the budget process. The commission, I think, has been very clear in what they're saying, unless I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing from the commission is they're saying among our priorities and with our very limited funds, we're not interested in jumping off and doing shade. That said, that is something that we could certainly tackle as a budget conversation. And if it's the pleasure of this council to spend money on shade, then heck yeah, we'll spend money on shade. And I can get, real specific numbers and say, we as staff believe that these are the 5 parks that need it the most. This is what it would cost for each. Do you want to spend, $250,000 to do that? Here's what your budget looks like with that number built in. I'm happy to do that.
That's what I'm asking for.
Can I just
close
it out? Let me suggest, Roger, you do what we did with the youth sports field, the synthetic turf over in Livermore. When we couldn't maintain that field because of the way the ground was, and football is a tough game, you play in rain, and when you play in rain, you rip up turf, not artificial turf. And after what we went through, we couldn't do it. We said, we got to make a decision. And that was done by the Park Commission, done by the Folsom Athletic Association, and many youth groups all got together and told the city we would go out and fund money, look for fundraising, and then match whatever the city would match, and we would try to build that park. We did that. $100,000 from soccer, $50,000 from football, $50,000 from the FAA, $50,000 from Jim Carlson, $100,000 from girls softball. And then we went down to a developer and asked him for a donation, and $250,000. We raised over $700,000 as a group, okay? And we came back to the city council and said, okay, we did our job. They matched it. It was $1.2 million type deal. And we built that park, okay? So maybe you should do that. Maybe you should go out and take that on and mobilize all these groups that and Mike was right, because Mike gave us the first plan for the diagram for the complex. I remember that, Mike. We didn't use it, but we did have it. It was too sophisticated. We didn't have the money at all for that one. But I would suggest you take that in consideration. Let's get together and see if we can do that.
And I respect that idea, but before we do that, I want to just at least look at what we can do as a council to say yes or no. We don't have specific figures, and we pushed it back to the commission, and it got pushed into this.
Yeah, but Roger, when I was on the commission, the thing that I knew was the point, the same thing when I went down to see the developer, I asked him for $500,000. I got $250,000. It wasn't bad. But I didn't go in there with nothing. I went in there with already $350,000 in the bank and the commitment. If you raise some money, it's easier for people to talk to you. If you go in with nothing, you walk out with nothing. Okay, so I'm saying when you want the council to consider, let's make a decision. I'll help you. I'll help you try to raise that money so you can come back and then say, maybe we can find matching funds. But it's a lot easier to get matching funds if you do something than just come in with nothing and say, figure it out for me.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Okay, then we will move on to 6F, the Folsom Plan Area Quarterly Update.
Good evening. Steve Cron, City Engineer. I want to give you a brief update of the second quarter activity in the Folsom Plan area. And if you recall from the first quarter's presentation, the theme was the weather. We had a lot of weather, and that weather extended all the way into almost halfway through the second quarter. So I'll go through an update of the second quarter. both planning, grading, construction, and building activity in the plan area. As I summarize, and we'll go through the activity, and feel free at any time during the presentation to ask questions. I'm okay with interruptions. If you have questions or something you see or have any concerns, instead of leaving it at the end, it might work out better. I'm fine with that. You've all seen this overview. These are the entitlements that we have thus far. Most of the entitlements and the approvals for tentative maps have been east of East Bidwell Street. And this is what has been approved so far. I'll also go through some of the activity during the second quarter from the planning perspective, and we're looking at maybe adding some entitlements in the future actually on the west side of East Bidwell Street, maybe in the third quarter of this year. The planning activity for the last quarter has been, we approved Mangini Ranch Villages 3 through 5 design review. That is Tri-Point Homes. Tri-Point Homes is going to be building single-family residential units in those villages. It's the second phase of Mangini Ranch Phase 1, and those are villages 3, 4, and 5. In fact, we expect them to pull their model home permits probably in this next week, probably in the next 2 weeks. Those should be under construction. And also we have 3 residential projects that are in the entitlement review process, which we'll go through briefly as I go through these slides. This is 3, 4, and 5. This is Tri-Point Homes. As I mentioned earlier, they are close to pulling their model home permits. And so they would be expecting probably to finish those later, probably in the fourth quarter of this year. Russell Ranch Design Guideline modification. These were some modifications that were also approved. I believe it was some setbacks and some areas. I forgot what the name of these things are called, but this was also approved in the second quarter of this year. This is, as I mentioned, there's some activity. We have an application in for Toll Brothers. I think it's 1,000 units of assisted living. Not assisted living.
Isn't it 55 and older?
55 and older, yes, age restricted.
You're fast approaching. I'd be careful with that one.
Yeah, well, I'm there. I could qualify. So there are also 200 market rate units also on the far farther west of that. That would be in the second phase. The first phase will be all age restricted on the easterly portion of the project. So that's kind of an overview. That will be going to the Planning Commission. We expect sometime during the third quarter. This is another entitlement we have request in. This is Mangini Ranch Lot 10. It's called Creekstone. This is also Tri-Point Homes. They're in for review, and again, they should be scheduled for Planning Commission approval in the third quarter of this year. This is Lot 15. This is the north side of Mangini Parkway. This is another small subdivision that will be seeking entitlement as well. So that's really the activity on the planning side that we have this far, and we should be seeing those all coming forward. All 3 of those projects will eventually come to the City Council for approval.
Is that age-restricted project, does that get looped into affordable housing component, or is that completely separate?
Completely separate.
They're not market rate, though, right? Or are they
There are
just
200 units of it are in the later phases, but I don't think the age
The
restricted.
age restricted, I'm sure they're paying into the fee, but there's no component, and frankly, even if it were age-restricted apartments, they're viewed differently. You cannot achieve your affordable housing component strictly with age-restricted units.
Do we have anything planned right now that is affordable housing, LI, ELI, anything like that sprinkled into south of 50 at all?
I'm not aware of any at this time.
So right now it's just the in lieu fee.
They're all paying in lieu fees so far.
And I don't know that any of the apartments have even come in yet.
We have an application, we've had an application and it's on hold, which you'll see a slide here. I believe it might be the next
Is that the
slide.
Spanos one
Yes,
you were just talking about?
Multifamily. That's been on hold due to a lot of infrastructure that needed to be constructed for that thing to pencil and be able to move forward. There is a lot of activity, which we'll talk about here briefly, that might allow this to get back on track and come back in and seek an entitlement. So this could be our first multifamily project. in the plan area over this next year.
And just for clarification of anybody that's in the room tonight or anybody watching on TV, there are currently no single-family affordable units in the city of Folsom. All of that is being provided in the form of rental units in multifamily projects.
But they're all north of 50, and there's nothing at this point besides this, which is on hold, planned for south of 50, correct?
It's only because none of the apartment complexes none of the areas that are zoned for multifamily, none of those projects have come in yet.
Yeah, we haven't received an application yet on any
We've
of
got
those
zoning
locations.
down there for it. It's
They're all
just not there
zoned.
yet.
I'm just asking at this point
Yeah.
if there's no plans yet.
We have received no application on any of those parcels.
Thank you.
Okay, so this will move into the infrastructure grading and activity. And as I mentioned earlier, they were off to a slow start this year due to the weather. The rains and the weather extended all the way into May. But since that time, in the second half of the second quarter, we've seen a lot of activity, and we expect that activity to increase over the next 2 quarters all the way until the next rainy season at the end of this year. This is kind of an aerial view. This photo was taken in June, I think it's June 14th, so about a month ago. So these are some of the areas that we're seeing the activity right now going on, which will continue as I mentioned earlier, all the way to the end of this year. You can see the Russell Ranch Phase 1 to the right, Enclave, which will have a couple more photos. And I've got some photos of each one of these developments a little bit more clear and a little bit closer up. But this is the general overview of the activity we're seeing currently, and we expect to continue on through the year. This is Mangini Ranch Phase 1B, I mentioned earlier. Villages 3, 4, and 5 are on the west side of, this villages 3, 4, and 5 is this area here. This is Tri-Point Home. The south side here is villages 6 and 7. This location here is the school site where the elementary school will be constructed. And the parcel next to it here is the park site. And that is, should be graded and completed here probably in the next month. They'll have that fairly level and would be ready when and if it's ready to be transferred to the city if the city wanted to take ownership of it for a future park site. That's Mangini Ranch Phase 1B. Russell Ranch Phase 1, which I mentioned earlier, this is kind of a little closer up view of it. There's a photo on the right there of the landscaping that's gone in on the entrance as it approaches. This is Alder Creek Parkway just east of Placerville Road. And we're expecting these improvements, all the improvements for all 8 of those villages to be complete in August of this year. So next month, we expect that to be completed. They're paving now, concrete curb gutter and sidewalk and paving, and we expect that to be complete fairly soon. So we would start building permits in several of those villages over the next.
So Alder Creek Parkway is going to reopen in the next month and a half?
I'm not sure yet if we're going to open it yet. There's a lot of construction activity going on out there, and we're going to look at it kind of on a case-by-case basis on whether or not we want to open it up to the public. It'll certainly have to be open when the sales office that Russell Ranch will construct up at the top of the hill.
Well, because that's constraining the no U-turn sign that I discussed again this week with Mr. Nugent. So if you could keep Public Works up to date as to when that's going to open, because 15 seconds after it opens, I want that no U-turn sign up.
Okay.
And if one of you guys could call me so I can be driving by while it's being installed, that'd be great.
All right. Okay, we're moving on. This is a couple of photos of the same project, Russell Ranch Phase 1. You can see the roundabout in the lower left. That is up at the top of the hill. There's one of 2 roundabouts that have been constructed on Grand Prairie and one on Alder Creek Parkway. And there's a respite there on the upper left that's along Alder Creek Parkway as well. That's constructed. And then the 2 views from the right are the clubhouse location up on the top of the hill next to the water tank. There's one view down Alder Creek Parkway on the upper right. And incidentally, last week we issued the clubhouse building permit and their pool permit. for the Russell Ranch Clubhouse. So that activity will start probably this week with construction. And I think they're shooting to have that completed and open to the public in March of next year.
That's also an active adult community, isn't it?
No, not phase one.
Okay.
Phase two has an approved, I think there's 204 units in phase two that it's age restricted.
Okay.
And we've heard from the developer, I can't speak for them, but we have an understanding on staff that since the plans are in review, that they intend on constructing that phase two sometime next year during the construction season.
So it looks like that view's going to be as good as the one from Lifetime.
Yeah, it's going to be a great view up there. A lot of those, there's some lots next to there that have even better view as you drive right above there. Quite a few lots. In fact, almost all the lots on that side, on that village have really good views. The entire subdivision phase one. So we're moving on. We just this last month, White Rock Springs Ranch project resumed. They started last, if you call, last summer. Late in the summer, they had gotten started, but then they shut it down for the winter. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the winter was extended with the rains. But they just recently, this last month, resumed construction. And this is what you're looking at on the left is Village 1 for White Rock Springs Ranch. I believe the homes being built there will be by Richmond American Homes. I believe they may be coming in for design review probably in the third quarter, maybe the fourth quarter of this year. So we would expect these improvements for Village 1, and what I'll come to the next slide is Car Trust, which is right across the extension of Mancini Parkway. Both of those villages, we expect them to be done and constructed and complete, at least the infrastructure, by the end of this year. This is the Car Trust, which I mentioned. It's just to the left of Village 1. You can see Russell Ranch in the background. Some of those, you can see the one roundabout, and there's a second roundabout in the foreground, in the background as well. But this is activity really picked up, and that should continue all the way through the rest of the construction season in this village, in this subdivision. And also that started back in May was the Enclave. This is the Enclave at the corner of East Bidwell and Alder Creek Parkway. This is kind of an overview. You can see the same subdivision to the right. This is viewed from Alder Creek Parkway up on the hill. So that's a good view. Most of those lots are now padded since this, and they should be starting underground improvements, and that's a 111 unit subdivision that'll be constructed. And it's we have an understanding that it will be KB Homes building homes in that subdivision, potentially as early as the fourth quarter of this year. Here's the final slide on the grading going on this year. And this has not started yet, but this is a good overview. You can see Enclave in the foreground, and then, of course, the existing development in the back. But that area between, and of course on both sides of Alder Creek Parkway, which closed back in May, that area we expect to be graded fully by the end of this year. We've gotten indications from the developer, the landowner, that they're going to start in about 2 weeks. The plans are close to approval. And they're going to try to take advantage of the closure of Alder Creek Parkway to complete the grading and move a lot of dirt and material across Alder Creek Parkway during that closure. So we on the next quarterly report, third quarter report, we should see some activity, a lot of activity, and it'll look quite a bit different than it does right now in the next 3 months. Here is a summary of the small lot final maps. You know, we have been bringing a lot of those back to City Council over the last year. So what we have so far, and project by project, is the total project approved. And then what we have at the bottom for the ones that have been the first column is those final maps that have been approved by City Council and recorded. I have a couple of question marks in there for White Rock Springs Ranch and Car Trust because they're on consent calendar for this evening. So it would have been presumptuous if I would have said they were approved already. So I put a question mark next to them. But assuming they do get approved, the lots that we have mapped right now would a total 902 with the approval of those two. And we're currently reviewing several other small lot final maps in Mangini Ranch, White Rock Springs Ranch, of course, the Enclave, and those will all total 831. So we expect by the end of this year to have those approved, which will put us up just over 1,700 lots mapped already in the plan area that would be ready for development and building permit issuance. Here's again is an overview of the projects and the activity that's going on right now. We expect to continue. That's just a good view of the lake in the background, and of course the rest of the city north of 50.
Can I ask you a question on the 1,700?
Yes.
What's your anticipated timeline for those to actually be developed?
It's hard to say. Right. This last year we did about, I think, just under 300 permits. So projecting that out, and of course this year we expect to have several other builders pulling permits. This was just 2 builders in villages 1, 2, 8, and 9. So I would say it would range between 300 and 500 permits per year. So we could see that build out maybe over the next 3 years, 3.5 years to get those 1,700 lots of permits on those 1,700 lots. Of course, it's market driven, but once those maps record and they start paying taxes on those lots, the idea is they want to get those lots sold and get them developed to take that burden off those developers who have created the lots and built the infrastructure to serve them. So that's what we expect probably over the next 3 to 4 year period. Here's a building activity in the plan area during this last year. As I mentioned, which is just stated, we've issued so far 200, this is as of July 1st, I believe. We've issued 255 building permits in villages 1, 2, 8, and 9. 96 of those have received finals, and when we see the finals, we expect to have move-ins at the same time. So we're getting close to 100 families moving into these units in just over a year period. 223, and this was provided from the landowners. This is 223 homes have been sold, 117 were closed as of July 1st. The estimated population is 292, assuming 2.5 persons per household. And the most recent data for buyer geography is that 55% are existing residents, up from 50% in the last quarter. This is kind of the neighborhoods that we'll expect to see building permit activity over the next year or two. Of course, we've got Taylor Morrison, which will take villages 6 and 7 in the lower right. Tri-Point Homes, which I mentioned earlier, will be pulling permits in villages 3 through 5. And we have several different, including the new home company, we have a couple of other builders that should be pulling building permits in Russell Ranch. We believe one of them is Anthem United, and the other one may be Meritage Homes. Of course, we're waiting to see activity on those, but those are what we know so far. These are just some artist renderings of some of the villages that have been approved. Russell Ranch, Lennar, and of course Taylor Morrison, some of the buildings that design review that has been approved for several of those villages. In summary, the infrastructure and building activity is kind of, we've gone through each one of the projects: Mangini Ranch, villages 1 through 9, Russell Ranch, villages 1 through 8, Car Trust, village 1, Enclave, and then the shops at Folsom Ranch, we expect to see some improvement plans at least coming in, but we don't anticipate that commercial piece probably until the second quarter of 2020. And here's just another overview of it from an aerial view of it, those locations where we'll see that activity. This is the fact sheet that we included in all of our quarterly updates. And that's the conclusion of my presentation, unless you have any other questions.
Any questions of staff?
When Aerojet starts their project on Area 40, which they're talking maybe August, to start pulling out a lot of dirt and taking it elsewhere. That means a lot of trucks, a lot of activity. Are you in touch with that to see what the impact is?
I'm currently not in touch with it. We haven't seen. They may be working on it, but I haven't been in the loop on that. I expect when they start to go to do any grading activity within the least in the limits of the plan area, they'd have to go through us for a grading permit and any other approvals. So we would monitor in that regard
Well,
if
they're
they were going
taking
to
it
move
out.
forward.
They're excavating it out and they're moving it by truckloads to 2 locations. I would think by this time, this is July, we're talking August, they'd be talking, because that could impact on activity in that area on Prairie
Absolutely.
City Road.
Right.
I would suggest maybe a phone call.
Okay. Yeah, we
be
can certainly
sure.
follow up
We'll make sure
on
that's
that.
monitored.
Okay. Has a fire truck went up and went around the roundabouts?
Yes, I believe they have.
Because, you know, we went on a tour with the chamber with a big bus, and we got hung up. That worries
Yeah,
me.
There was
I'm not sure
construction
what time-
equipment all over the place.
I
That's-
think that was in the early days of the infrastructure development up there. I think our fire trucks have been up there testing the roundabout and getting the nod from our fire chief.
Okay.
It was, and I think at the time, I know they were designed to have a mountable curb around the inside, so if they were cut off, I'm not sure if the mountable curb was installed at that time, so it may have been the reason it got stuck. But I believe the fire department has gone through most of those roads up there already. And as the roads are completed, they'll be driving through all the subdivisions once they're paved and ready to go.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
And with that, we will move on to the consent calendar. I'm going to pull 7B for information. Anybody want to pull anything else?
7E.
You're saying B as in boy?
B as in boy,
I wanna
E as in
pull-
elephant.
Echo, yes.
Okay.
And what did you want?
I want to pull C. So unless anybody has anything else, I can move adoption of A, D, F, G, H, and I.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gaylord?
Yes.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
And Howell?
Yes. And item B, I wanted to pull that. That's Resolution 10313. It's a resolution authorizing the Public Works Department to install an all-way stop sign at the intersection of Clarksville Road and Bundrick. I just wanted people to be aware that there will be a 4-way stop at Clarksville and Bundrick. So if you're watching the meeting or you're watching it online, send a note to your neighbors if you live in that neighborhood.
I'd also add that we put out advance notice well in advance and let people know.
Okay,
that
good.
a stop sign will be installed at a certain date.
Okay, I don't anticipate this being a problem because we don't really have any homes that face Clarksville, so. And we already had a stop sign at Bundrick anyway, correct? Okay. Sarah, you wanted to pull C, or Mike?
I did. I just had a question.
Oh, sorry. So
you
I'll
wanna move-
move resolution
Okay.
10313.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gaylord?
Yes.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
And Howell?
Yes. Okay, Sarah.
So on C, Mark or Dave, I just wanted to clarify, so when you talk about, you know, looking at things on East Natoma to Folsom Lake Crossing, I mean, the whole entire thing isn't Folsom Lake Crossing, right? A lot of that is road, so is that study going to go, it's going to go past the Johnny Cash Bridge, the spillway would be on your right? I'm just, you know, when you're coming off the bridge and you've got that curve and there's been some accidents there, is that going to be part of this study?
Good evening, Mark Rackovan, Engineering Manager. No, the limits of this particular study stop at the intersection of East Natoma Street and Folsom Lake Crossing. We actually have already conducted a similar assessment of the Folsom Lake Crossing Road all the way from East Natoma Street to Folsom Auburn Road.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any, that's a separate item. I'll call you tomorrow just to find out what, if anything is planned there.
All right.
Sarah, did you want to move that item?
I'll move item, let's see. Resolution number 10314.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gaylord?
Yes.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
And Howell?
Yes.
Okay, I asked for E, a question for Marcus. The budget bust relative to what was projected was pretty significant here.
All right, we can
Could you
answer
add
that.
some color to the story, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Mayor Howell, members of the council, Marcus Yasutaki, Environmental Water Resources Director. Councilmember Kozlowski, yes. One thing we did do Because of the timing of this project relative to the adoption of the overall budget within the city, we had not yet completed the design of the project, and we added 3 items which are the significant driver of the cost. And it's about $850,000 when you break it down in the overall budget. And that is the external coating of 3 additional tanks outside of East Reservoir number 1. And so what we were trying to do at that time was get a good bid market while we had one company here doing East Tank number 1, which was the primary project, but 3 other tanks that we could also do at the same time and then not have to do those in subsequent years just for bidding purposes. So trying to get them done sooner rather than pushing those out to, say, 2 or 3 other fiscal years. And so that was the primary driver of about $850,000 and close to about,
Okay,
the
so that's
900,000.
actually a pretty good price for doing the tank exteriors. What's going on with the interiors of those other tanks?
The interiors of those other tanks are in relatively good condition. It's really East Reservoir number 1 where it has the significant delaminating of the paint on
At
the
the
interior of the tank.
Interior or exterior?
Interior and exterior at all of the tanks. Interior significantly more at East Reservoir relative to our other tanks.
Okay, and can we, in the relatively near future, have a discussion about what you guys need to be doing in terms of testing of the cathodic protection systems?
Yes, we can definitely do that. Okay. And this tank will have cathodic protection as part of the project as well.
And hopefully it's galvanic?
Yes.
Okay.
And passive, not...
yeah, that's the one.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. I noticed the other work that you had in other resolutions that all seem to be pretty close to what was budgeted, so thank you for that clarification.
You are welcome.
I will move Resolution 10317.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gaylord?
Yes.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
And Howell?
Yes. Which moves us to 8A, Resolution 10315.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm Stacy Tamani, Finance Director. Before you is resolution number 10315, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Folsom approving and confirming the report of delinquent utilities charges and requesting Sacramento County to collect such charges on the tax roll. And I'll just give you a brief overview of this item. The city collects user charges on almost 25,000 accounts in the amount of approximately $48 million annually for various utility services, including water, sewer, and solid waste. Of the approximately 25,000 accounts, the city maintains 422 of these, or 1.7%, are more than 60 days delinquent as of June 30th, 2019. The report that you are approving tonight lists active accounts that are more than 90 days delinquent, and this totals about $29,000 and represents a delinquency rate of 0.06%, and that's about half of where we were last year at this time. All of the delinquent accounts on the report are at least 60 days delinquent. Each owner has been given at least 2 notices of delinquent payment and potential discontinuance of service. In addition, each owner has been given prior notice of this hearing and the intent to lien their property by a June 6th and June 20th mailing. And finally, public notice of this hearing has been given in the Folsom Telegraph on July 4th and July 11th. Owners may still contact us before September 15th if they wish to avoid having a lien against their property, as the county will not send the property tax bill with a notice of their lien until mid to late October. And as a side note, all the properties on the list are for residential accounts that are in the property owner's name. And we don't lien properties where the account is in a renter's name. We require upfront deposits to mitigate the risk of non-payment on those accounts. So with this item, I'm recommending that you adopt resolution number 10315, requesting the county auditor to transfer these delinquent amounts to the property tax roll for collection with general property taxes. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
So is there any type of special payment structures? So you reached out to these folks, and I know I've only done this twice, so I don't know where the on the list here if they have the opportunity to arrange something with the city or.
Yeah, they absolutely do. So they can do a payment plan. We require that they pay 50% of their balance to have their water turned back on or not to be shut off.
So have any of these, because some of these are pretty substantial, have any of these asked for anything outside of the 50% that we could arrange for it, or?
No, usually the ones that get pretty significant are people that have either vacated the home, and so it continued up to this amount, or we have a few people that have just never paid, and it goes to the lien process every time.
We go to great lengths, honestly, with some customers, and some of you up here know that, to work with customers and all kinds of flexible plans to, get their water back on and get the payments flowing again. But these, no pun intended, but these cases are really the most egregious. Often people who just, seesaw contact, as Stacy said, just leave, and just leaving behind this large balance with no contact information.
And we do this, as does every other local jurisdiction in the region, including Regional SAN and other regional organizations. If the bills aren't paid, it goes on the property tax bill.
So my last question to that, and thank you, is if this was passed, is the city reach out one more time to try and true it up, or is it
No,
just?
tonight's the opportunity for them to.
Is there a way for me to ask if we could do one more follow-up after this, or is that?
No.
No.
No, they can come and contact us before September 15th, but we don't do any other outreach.
Okay.
And we have to get this information to the county so they can add it to the tax bills.
Exactly.
So, do we have a?
I'll move approval of resolution number 10.
Isn't it a public hearing? Don't we need to see
Oh.
anybody in the public?
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. We have no request to speak at this time. Does anybody want to come forward and speak on this issue? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Mike, did you want to
Apologize
repeat
for
that?
jumping the gun. I'd like to move approval of resolution number 10315 this evening.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gaylord?
Yes.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
And Howell?
Yes. And our next item under new business, item 9A, is appointment of at-large members to the L&L, the Landscaping and Lighting District Advisory Committees. And
Sorry, my
we've been
stuff
given,
got buried here.
you want to explain the process?
Yeah.
Ms. City Clerk?
So we have the L&L Advisory Committee has had some longstanding vacancies. So we've been doing some extended outreach to try to solicit some application to fill some of these districts that just have had persistent vacancies. So we've received applications for 5 different districts. In 3 of those districts, you simply have a single applicant. In 2 of the districts, you have 2 applications. So each of the council members has received a ballot. And Lydia, if you'll go ahead and project that up on the overhead, please. So we use a balloting system, so it's transparent to everybody how what the choices are and how each council member is voting. So, Madam Mayor, if you're agreeable, we would like to go ahead and take Willow Creek South first as one of the districts that have multiple applicants.
Okay.
So if you each want to complete your ballot and pass it down to me.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's not the right one. Sir, did you pass me, how many of yours did you give me?
I thought I gave you one of mine, one of Ernie's.
No, that's got Sarah Keno.
That's
That one's
right.
not signed.
This is Ernie's.
Ernie, can you sign that, please?
She wants you to sign the bottom here.
Oh,
She signed it.
I need mine, this one on top for me. Okay.
All right. I'm going to have an auditor in here in a minute if I'm not careful. Okay, these are all ballots for Willow Creek South. So Councilmember Sheldon votes for Crystal Gordon. Mayor Howell votes for Ian Cornell. Vice Mayor Aquino votes for Ian Cornell. Councilmember Kozlowski votes for Ian Cornell. And Councilmember Gaylord votes for Crystal Gordon. So we have 3 for Ian Cornell and 2 for Crystal Gordon.
No,
That's what we did Pat last time, didn't we?
no.
Typically, if we have 3 or more on an applicant, we would consider them appointed. Okay.
Okay,
So Ian Cornell is appointed to represent the Willow Creek South District. So next, let's do the district that also had 2. Which should be Prairie Oaks. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So Councilmember Sheldon votes for Matt Marshall. Vice Mayor Aquino votes for Tim O'Leary. Mayor Howell votes for Tim O'Leary. Councilmember Gaylord votes for Tim O'Leary. And Councilmember Kozlowski votes for Tim O'Leary. So Tim O'Leary is appointed to represent Prairie Oaks. So on the remaining 3 districts, Lydia, if you'd go ahead and put up Folsom Heights, California Hills, just so we see. We have 1 applicant, Tanya Morales.
So are we looking for write-ins or something?
Typically, no, because we need to verify that they're residents
Okay.
of the district.
You want to just pass them down?
I'll streamline this and say it's unanimous for Tanya Morales. Go ahead with the next one, please. For Sherry Shively for Lake Natoma Shores. Officially unanimous. Let's do the next one. Kathy Kennedy is appointed to Steeplechase as well. So thank you very much. We'll reach out to these applicants tomorrow morning and confirm that they've been appointed, and we'll provide their information to the Parks and Rec Department so they can reach out and get these folks to work.
All right, thank you. And we will move on to item 9B under new business. Resolution 10312, resolution approving the updated sewer system master plan, management plan.
All right, thank you again, Councilmember Howell. Marcus Yasutaki, Environmental Water Resources Director. The moment I think we've all been waiting for tonight is the recertification of our sewer system management plan. I have a brief.
That's why not a lot of engineers do stand up.
And Krista, I don't know if you can help me. It's not sending to the projector.
I'm not reading that book, Marcus.
Okay.
Marcus?
Yes.
I'm not reading that book.
Okay. We'll have it online if you want to peruse through that. That's what we are here to discuss tonight. My goal is to do that very quickly and to not have 5 years worth of information to present to you this evening. We do want to highlight a couple items. I first want to thank several of our staff, Greg Buletti, our wastewater collections supervisor, who oversees the wastewater collections department. We have Todd Ising here in the audience, who oversees a majority of our divisions, including the wastewater collection division. Vaughn Fleischbein, who is responsible or has been responsible for putting this document together in 2014 and this year. So he knows this front and back very well. So if there are specific questions, he'll be able to address those. And then the other engineering and operations maintenance staff that help perform some of the duties that are included in this plan. So with that quick presentation, just an overview of the collection system, our SSO or sanitary sewer overflow comparisons to the state and to the region, some of the regulatory history, the elements of the sanitary or sewer system management plan, and recommendations that we have that come out of this document. So just a quick overview. This is an overview of our system. We have a little over 300, close to 360 miles of pipe between gravity, force main, and sewer laterals. Pipe sizes range from 2 inches to 33 inches. We have 17 pump stations, 18 different basins that you can see here. We have an FPA basin, and right now we haven't broken that down into any sub-basins just because of the current size and the build-out there. And we are serving a little over 73,000 residents. That does not include the prison population, so closer, that does include, sorry, not their sanitary sewer system. They have a satellite system that they manage. So our plan does not include their on-site system, but they are considered a satellite agency to the city. So their entire flow comes into the city, just as an aside. And then the average dry weather flow is about 7 million gallons per day. And that is what the city sends down to regional sand for treatment.
Yeah. Marcus, do you remember off the top of your head what the wet weather flow is?
I do not. Vaughn, do you?
Double? 14 maybe? Okay.
14 to 15 probably, but if we can look through the document and definitely find that information for you, because
Okay.
we do have a plan in there or a hydraulic model that does show what the peak wet weather flow is. I just don't know off the top of my head. My apologies. Comparison of our sanitary sewer overflows. These are the number of spills per 100 miles per year. So that's the matrix in which we use. We can see that we have about 13. The regional average is closer to 40, and the state's a little over 30. So relative to the state and to the region, our system does very well.
Am I looking at something incorrectly there? It looked like it was under 10 in Folsom. Isn't that?
It could be our graphic that, yes, it's just the graphic.
What counts as a spill?
So
how much do you have to lose control for it to be a spill?
a gallon.
Really?
I mean,
Okay.
yep. And so there's different categories. So they fall into different categories. If it's up to a certain amount, like 1,000 gallons, and anything over 1,000, and then there's another category if it reaches a body of water.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
If it reaches a body of water, it's super bad.
Whether it's 1 gallon or several thousand gallons. Just a little bit on our history. In January 2000, the city did have a significant sanitary sewer overflow. We did receive our own permit, special to the city in 2002. In May 2006, after many years of rehabilitation of the sewer system, replacement projects, and overall operation and maintenance improvements, that was rescinded. And the state, we then fell under a waste discharge requirement for all collection systems at the state level. So we were able to rescind our own operating permit and fall under a larger permit. In 2009, City Council approved the first SSMP, and then we've had 5-year updates in 2014, and then tonight we're seeking the third update. In December of 2012, we did have an unannounced audit where the state board and regional board staff did come out and interview our staff, not only our engineering staff, but our operations staff over, I think, a 2 or 3 day period. And just want to highlight what came out of that 2012 unannounced audit. So again, the interview was conducted with field staff, engineering, and maintenance staff. And then general findings that came out of their report was that our system is in good operating condition. Our records are adequately kept up to date. So before we had written records, and now we have a computerized maintenance management system that all of our work orders are put into, and any responses that we get to phone calls, whether it's residential or spills in the public right-of-way, our staff are highly knowledgeable, well-trained, and we do have capacity within our sewer system to handle not only the dry weather flows, but a majority of the peak wet weather flows as well. Just some highlights. We can read these if you want, but essentially the staff said City of Folsom is doing a great job, and Todd has been asked on several different occasions to actually go and speak on behalf of the City of Folsom for basically the way we operate and what we do as a model to other agencies within the state. So we do like to get out and brag a little bit about how well we're doing, because it's a great reflection on our staff, but also the support we get from management and city council.
And I just want to add that in addition to our having one of the most well-operated sewer systems in the region, in the state of California, we've been recognized on a national level as well for the very, very low rate of overflows that we have.
Yes. These are the elements of
Most people don't like to talk about sewage, but it's one of my favorite things, so.
Yes. Hey, and you even get to sit on a board for us. The elements of the sewer system management plan here are listed. I'm not going to go into each one in detail, but we will highlight four of the main ones that have had some changes since 2014. That's the legal authority, operations and maintenance, the system evaluation and capacity assurance plan, and our communications program. And just so you all know, this SSMP is a living document. So if we find a need to change something or modify an operating procedure in year 2 after adoption, we will do that through an internal self-audit process. Goals, obviously, is provide uninterrupted sewer service, minimize the risk of our SSOs, mitigate any unforeseen SSOs, so that's a lot of our proactive work that we do, ensure adequate sewer capacity, not only for existing customers, but for any customers in terms of infill projects within the city, sustain the aging infrastructure, and obviously ensure adequate funding, not only for the operations and maintenance, but for capital replacement. The organization, legal responsible official, that happens to be me. Roles and responsibilities cover the management and operations and maintenance, and then SSO reporting. So this is our wastewater collection staff, and then that's just the organizational chart in which we include in the SSMP. This ultimately does have to be adopted or recertified by the governing board. In this case, it's city council for us. Legal authority, one thing that we did do is update Chapter 13 of the municipal code, and what we're trying to do is give one more legal authority, not more legal authority, but to ensure the proper legal authority for the city to enforce any violations of SSOs, or if customers had fat oils and greases within the sewer system and were contributing to the city sewer system, to ensure that we had the ability to go into those not the jurisdictions, but typically those are restaurants or food service establishments, and let them know, hey, this is a violation of the city code, and they have to take care of it. And obviously then proper design and construction for new facilities going into place. One thing we did do in 2005 specifically was really identify for our customers the private versus public portion of their sanitary sewer system. So we did go through a significant update in 2015 of this portion of the municipal code, and this is just a brief outline of how we delineated between public and private, just so we and our customers knew what their responsibility is, or if we need to explain it, well, we can do that pretty easily. Operations and maintenance, they handle the sanitary sewer mapping for the city, preventative operations and maintenance, and so we tried to prevent the spills rather than to react to the spills. Rehabilitation and replacement program, so not only the maintenance of our system, but replacing the infrastructure before we need to replace the infrastructure, and then training and keeping an inventory of all of our facilities. An update, or the majority of the updates here, are establishing a proactive closed circuit television inspection of the sewer laterals. So we have about 22,000 sewer laterals within the city, and our goal is to go in and inspect each one of those sewer laterals. We do that with the main lines, but we also want to do that because we do have spills that occur because somebody's private or public portion of the sewer lateral can cause a spill on their property. So we want to be able to find those, and if it's on the city's public side, then get those into our system to be repaired. New standard operating procedures were created. One of the items from 2017 as part of the Hinkle Creek project was to identify those areas that were or are inaccessible by our sewer vector trucks, and just how, one, we would perform the routine operations and maintenance of those facilities, but two, respond to any sanitary sewer overflows. So that we do have a specific section now added to address those locations. Force main maintenance program, we talked about this pig launching before, and so just identifying those sewer pump stations that do have force mains, and either installing the infrastructure when the sewer pump station is brand new so that we can have the pig launching station, or when we retrofit or upgrade any pump stations to make sure those are added. So this is the way we go in and actually clean the force mains. Odor control improvements. So there are several areas throughout the city where we did have odor control or odor complaints, so we installed systems to minimize the impacts of odor at those locations. Pump station condition assessment, so looking at all of the pump stations and make sure the pumps and the infrastructure are operating correctly there. And then converting some of our sanitary sewer manhole covers to these smart monitoring systems. So it's a remote system that will send an alarm if there's a high flow or no flow in a sanitary sewer manhole, which would indicate that there's likely a spill or there will be a spill. So it gives us a little bit more response time before an actual spill would occur. So it's a little, so in Hinkle Creek, this is one of the things that we're going to do. So we have infrastructure in place that would inform or alert us if we might see a spill before it actually happened. Design and performance provisions, again, working with Steve Cron and the engineering division for our design standards, construction and specifications, and then the installation, testing, and inspection of these facilities. So this applies to the new sanitary sewer systems, pump stations, and then the rehabilitation or replacement of the capital projects that our department works on. Overflow emergency response plan, again, we did update several of the sections to include those areas that were non-accessible by our sewer vector trucks. And then obviously ensuring the proper notifications if we do have a spill, if they do reach either the storm drain or you know, a lake or a stream, not a lake, but a stream or the American River, we do have a proper spill notification chart that we have to go through. So ensuring that all those numbers are obviously up to date and the contacts listed are current and correct. Fats, oils, and grease, our fog control program. This is covered by Ordinance 1071, adopted in March of 2007. And really, this is for our food service establishments. So our goal is to, every 2 years, inspect the food service establishments to ensure that they are not contributing fog to our system. And if they are, we identify ways in which they can prevent that from happening. And then we do work with our building department as well when there might be tenant improvements or new food service establishments being built, just as to what type of grease control devices can be used in those particular food service establishments. So we work closely with the building department to ensure proper installation at the beginning.
Marcus, just a suggestion, if we could every now and then, maybe once a year or something like that, include something in the city's newsletter, just to remind our homeowners that they basically need to pay attention to what they're putting down their kitchen sinks, just like restaurants do.
Yes,
Because
and
it leads to the same problem.
That is a great preview for one of the upcoming slides. So the sewer system evaluation and capacity assurance plan, this goes back to ensuring that our current system has the capacity for the current development as well as future development. If for some reason future development would impact the existing capacity, we do have funds that we collect on the sewer system, you know, connection fees and impact fees that can address capital projects that would expand or increase the capacity of a sewer pipe in a certain location within the city, so we don't have to necessarily use rate funds to cover those types of projects. So we'd be able to use the sewer impact fee funds to help offset some of the costs to upsize the size of a pipe if we needed to do that, or a pump station for that matter. The improvements here, these were improvements from 2000 to 2014, and then the next slide will cover the improvements that occurred in this recertification from 2014 to 2019. So you can see here, these are the improvements. I can go into detail if you'd like, but you know, these are some of the bigger ones that we did. And one of the things that we really wanted to do was to install new metering devices, for one, to better accurately collect the data, but two, be able to use that data into smaller sub-basins or take portable meters within those sub-basins if we identified certain locations where we might have inflow and infiltration, to better be able to identify where some of the projects we should focus our attention on. Monitoring, measurement, and program modifications. So this is just a history going back to the late 90s of our spills and volume relative to where we are in 2019. And I believe we're in a great trend moving downward. It may be difficult to get lower than where we are in the chart, but we will strive to at least maintain that level, if not decrease that over the years, especially as we add more infrastructure to the city. But you can see how we are doing and the vast improvements we have made from the late 90s to 2019. So that is something that I know our staff takes great pride in, because it is nice to have these types of reports as opposed to the trend going this way. Performance measures, again, I covered this earlier. We have different measures. So the number of spills per 100 miles per year. There's the net volume in gallons per 1,000 capita per year, and you can see just how low we are, again, relative to the state and to the region. This is our inspection schedule, and this is for flushing, camera inspection, and then sanitary sewer manhole inspection. And then this is for the food service establishment inspection. So as you can see, we do really well in this program. I will get to some of these, but you can, in terms of where we found some of our deficiencies. And this is also part of the self-audit that we have every 2 years, is it allows us to find either areas of improvement or maybe specific programs that might not be working well, and trying to find ways in which to improve those. So specifically for 13, Basin 13, right here, you can see that our flushing and camera inspection, 0%, and then 14 at 0, 0, and 0. So what has happened is it's not a staffing issue per se in terms of we lack staffing, but a majority of the work that we do is a two-person team. So if you're out flushing, you have somebody on the vector, and then you have somebody at the far end that's actually watching and monitoring the equipment. Same thing with the camera inspection. You have somebody that's in the camera van, and then you have somebody that's making sure the camera's fitting in the manhole and working its way either upstream or downstream, depending on the direction they're going. And with pump station inspections, we typically have 2 people at the pump stations, because they are inspecting the wet wells, and if something were to happen, if they were to fall in or get injured, and we don't want that to happen, we want to be sure we have somebody else there, as a safety precaution. And so
If those are confined spaces, you have to have 3 people.
correct, and some of them will have those special
Okay.
inspections, and we're not always in the wet wells at every station. But yes, you are correct, Mayor Howell. When we do have those special instances, we do have the confined space requirements that we have to meet. And so in those particular basins, what we have found is there's a couple of drivers. One is we are sending staff south of 50, so when that infrastructure is put in to do the inspection, make sure the flushing's occurring accordingly when that new infrastructure is inspected and tested. So we do have staff that has been assigned to go and monitor that as that infrastructure is being tested. 2, when we do have vacations, we currently have 6 staff that perform the routine operations and maintenance. So if you have vacation or sick, you're down to 5. So one of those activities does not get addressed. In this case, the main priority for us is our pump stations. So if we always ensure that we have the pump stations inspected. So that is a main priority for us. And then...
So when are you going to do 13 and 14? And where are they?
So let's see if I have to go back to the map, so excuse me. So 13 is, let's see, there's 14, and 13 is with the Natoma Station area, and 14 looks like it might be between Glen and the Historic District. So those are fiscal year 1920 and 2021. So because we didn't do that in the previous 5-year cycle, we're moving those up to the first year of the next 5-year cycle. And we do have ways that we plan to catch up with the remaining balance, and I'll get to that.
And hopefully when you guys decide which ones are going to get, let's just say, delayed, there's consideration that's been given to whatever the history is in that particular basin.
That is one, and then 2, the type of pipe.
Okay.
So if we do know a particular location has a history of spills, we'll address those on a more frequent basis. But if we know that it's a newer installation, PVC pipe versus clay pipe, we factor all that in to make sure they are prioritized correctly. The SSMP program audits, these are done every 2 years. So this was completed in 2019 as well. And this is just a brief description of some of the things that we look at: the goals, organization, legal authority, and operations and maintenance. And we just, as I mentioned, we identify what we're doing well, what we've done, and where we need to go. Communications, and this touches on what you asked about before, Mayor Howe. We do identify in certain times of the year the weekly e-newsletter and the city newsletter, and this really comes around the Thanksgiving time, is to not dump fats, oils, and greases into our sanitary sewer system. So that is included in outreach through our communications department.
One other thing for that, it's been discussed recently at Regional San. The other thing that is super, super bad to put in your drain and your garbage disposal are eggshells. Can cause huge clogs, and it messes with that, and the antibacterial soap messes with the bugs at the wastewater plant.
And one other thing we have found locally is that when they say the wipes are flushable, they may be flushable, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the pump at the pump station.
It's not going to get through the grinding pump at the pump station.
And so we do find that has caused some of our pumps to be clogged. And one of those particularly is the Del Norte Vista pump station. That's just on the north side of the American River. And so we did local outreach directly with the households and the businesses there, just to let them know, hey, if you are using these and they say flushable, they're flushable, but they cause other problems at our pump station. And we did have a decrease in the actual calls for failure there at that pump station, so it did work. And then obviously working with the city satellite agency, Folsom State Prison, and then I mentioned the regional board and state board staff communications. So now the last slide, the recommendations, and these were addressed. One was to update the standard operating procedures to address how we respond to those areas that are inaccessible, but also the routine operations and maintenance of those areas. So we did add specific sections on how to address that. We did have a utilities technician vacancy, which we converted to an actual collection tech position. So that helps us. When we had the 6 previously, now we have 7. So if one were on vacation or calling sick or is on light duty, we can still function with the 6-person operating team to have 2 people go to each site. When we do have all 7 here, that person can also now help with our sewer lateral inspection program, which is can be a one-person job. So we have been able to use a vacancy that we had to help get us back in line with our 5-year plan. One other recommendation is we'll come back to council with this, but is to purchase an additional CCTV van. Because right now, if the one van we have, if something happens to it mechanically, we can't do any of our inspection. The camera itself, we do want to purchase some additional cameras. So a camera, if it goes out, can take 2 to 3 weeks to be repaired. So even if the van itself is fully functioning, the camera itself will not be. So we will come back to City Council with a request to purchase an additional van and some backup cameras so that we can get back on our CCTV inspection routine as well. And then the inflow and infiltration, or I&I, at the basin-specific level. So we do have an overall number and numbers from a hydraulic standpoint for the larger basin, but we do know that there are some particular areas within the basin itself that we want to try to identify so we can better manage where our projects are located. And with that, I will take any questions. Or if anybody wants to take this home, I'll offer that up as well. Factor truck, yeah, we can bring it out. I meant this book here to the side.
I have a couple questions. I'm not an engineer and I have a weak stomach, so you don't need to go into a lot of detail when you answer this, okay? But when there is a sewer spill, is that because the infrastructure has failed or because you got the grease and the oil and there's a clog? I mean, what things would lead to a sewer spill?
Okay, so there are several. One can be roots. So if there's roots physically inside the pipe that block the sewage from flowing, that is one. You can physically have the pipe break or collapse or crack. That's another. Vandalism is another one. We saw one in Hinkle Creek where there was an actual rock inside the sewer pipe, so we had to dig that up.
It happened in Lexington Hills as well.
There have been some where construction debris has made it into the sewer system, so they may have left or dumped stuff in either knowingly or unknowingly, and that has caused sewer spills. And then the fats, oils, and greases. So as the oil and grease solidifies over time, it will just shrink the size of the pipe, and ultimately that can lead to a sewer spill.
Not to mention people putting things that don't belong in toilets. Like I went out one Saturday morning, and they pulled a mop head out of the pipeline.
So when you talk about vandalism and somebody putting a rock, so that means somebody's lifted up the manhole cover and dropped a rock in there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that can happen.
So do we not lock those manhole covers?
And so that is one thing we are doing as well. And one thing we're also doing from a safety perspective is actually getting lighter manhole cover lids that do have locking mechanisms on there. And there's a special key that you have to use in order to open those up. So one, it helps, safety-wise to not have to lift anything heavy, but two, also would address the ability for anybody to just open that easily.
Okay, and so you mentioned like tree roots, and you had a slide up there. So there's some sort of line that goes from my house to the manhole thing or whatever in the street, right?
Yes.
And so if roots from a tree in my front yard get in there and cause problems, are you saying that that's then my responsibility as the homeowner?
That is correct. So what we would do is typically we would get a call that, hey, there's a sewer spill, and we don't know whether it's public or private. So we'll come out to the site and identify, yes, that's a public spill or a private spill. What we have done in the past, even though we're not required to do so, we will try to fix the problem if we can. But if it's a major problem on the private side, we will identify what that problem is and and inform the homeowner, hey, you know what, you need to call a plumber because your pipe's broken, or you need to get somebody out here to cut the roots out. If it is truly a root issue.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And then the other item I forgot to mention is if we have a failure at our pump station. So if the pumps fail, the electricity fails, the backup generator fails, and we don't get out there and set up a bypass pump system, that could lead to it. But all those things would have to happen before that. And we would get alarms along the way before it actually spilled out of a pump station.
Which is why it happens so infrequently.
I was just going to make so the part on there, I want to make sure it's clarified for me, the special designation for Hinkle Creek and the zoo, those are listed independently because they're treated differently for the areas?
No, we just, what we wanted to do is point out specific areas in which currently or planned where we want to install certain devices so that we have the ability to react sooner than typical areas. One, obviously, because Hinkle Creek is highly inaccessible. Two, the zoo. In order to get into the zoo, we'd also obviously have to work with zoo staff to be able to get in there. And so what we wanted to do is identify, hey, if we were having a problem, that would be one of the areas where we'd get a faster response because we'd get notified earlier. And the zoo project, we did work a lot with the Parks and Rec Department because that system had not necessarily had failures, but the pipe and the infrastructure was failing. And we also had to coordinate their flushing of I think it's the bear ponds. I think the bear ponds, because when they flush and clean the bear ponds, you get a high volume of water at one time. And so we want to ensure that pipeline had the capacity to take that large flush at once.
Got it.
And most jurisdictions don't have that particular issue to deal with.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion. Oh, I don't have it open.
To approve resolution 10312.
I will motion to approve resolution
10312.
10312.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Gaylord?
Yes.
Kozlowski?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Aquino?
Yes.
And Howell?
Yes. City manager report.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations to Abby Fenton and Sienna Hansen for being the last teenagers standing in this council meeting. They get extra donuts.
Yeah.
Just wanted to remind everyone that we have a council recess coming up, so there will be no meeting on August 13th. Our only meeting, or your only meeting in August, will be on August 27th. Communities throughout Folsom will team up with the Folsom Police Department Tuesday, August 6th for National Night Out, a nationwide program that promotes involvement in crime prevention, police community partnerships, and neighborhood camaraderie. To see if there is a party in your neighborhood, contact Jessica Hess at jhess@folsom.ca.us. Simple changes around your home's exterior can help prevent crime in your home and in your neighborhood. Join Folsom Police Department Officer Chad Friedrich and the Neighborhood Watch Program at 6 p.m. on Wednesday the 24th at the Folsom Police Department to learn how crime prevention through environmental design and simple changes around your home can send a signal to criminals that you and your home are not a target. And the free summer concert series wraps up this season at City Lions Park from 7 to 9 p.m. this Friday, featuring country music artist Ashley Barron. And finally, the Folsom Public Library invites the community to consider donating blood at its summer blood drive from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Tuesday, August 6th. And I understand they're really needing donors, so if that's something you're interested in doing, please sign up. To make a donation, to make an appointment to donate blood, visit www.bloodsource.org/drives. Thank you.
Mike.
Three quick things. Just wanted to thank everybody that participated in the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation fundraiser at the Folsom Tap House. They raised over $10,000, so
awesome.
Great success back on July 13th. I got the opportunity to go on the El Dorado and Folsom Chamber of Commerce study mission representing the city, and we visited 2 weeks ago Asheville, North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, and then Charlotte, North Carolina in a little trip, and had some really interesting discussions with local business owners there of a whole variety of types of businesses, but most of them were in some sort of sports, entertainment, outdoors type businesses, and got some great ideas for us here in Folsom that we might be able to implement over the long haul. And then last Wednesday, I went to the community advisory group meeting for the Aerojet Superfund cleanup because I was out of town when the Area 40 discussion happened, and I just wanted to get myself up to date a little bit. Fascinating, the work that's happening over there. There are literally thousands of wells pulling water out and treating it all around Aerojet, and the work to clean up the groundwater that is off of the Aerojet site to the west, which was the main topic of discussion that evening, is progressing exactly as approved by the EPA and the state of California. That's it.
Roger?
I will just say good night. Thank you.
Ernie?
I just want to piggyback on what Mike on Aerojet Area 40. I can't say more emphatic that we've got to pay attention to Area 40 because it has some real concerns about that one park. And I think we need to have some more discussion, formal discussions on that. Aerojet has a good idea. They look very positive. But what I heard the last time, and many of you were there, it's scary. So I just want to make it now and bring it back later, more formal. But we better pay real attention to Area 40. That's all.
Sarah?
Just real quick, I'll report out on the committees that I sit on. LAFCO was on recess in July. The August meeting has been canceled for lack of agenda items. So, and then the Association of California Cities Aligned with Public Safety, Cities with Prisons, they are planning an annual board retreat and then kind of a separate mini conference, but I think that's geared more towards cities that allow marijuana distribution and stuff, which we don't do. But anyway, I'll talk to the city manager to find out what the city has participated in the past, or the council. Thanks.
I had a board retreat yesterday for regional transit. Sounds like the feedback that we're getting from the general public is very good. RT's happy, and our bus ridership is up about 20%. My understanding is that Henry Lee and his staff are working with our folks in Public Works about, excuse me, modification of the bus routes, as we talked about earlier tonight during your fabulous presentation, so that we can perhaps make it a little bit easier for folks to get their kids to either Vista Folsom High, or Folsom Middle. And those are 3 locations where I know we have significant traffic. And in fact, when we talked about it yesterday, I thought it would be kind of interesting because Brent was talking about different routes to get into Folsom Middle School. And I said, I think maybe the best one would be to just go down Blue Ravine and turn right at the light so that maybe the parents that are trying to turn into the school get passed by the bus that they could have put their children on. So I think, it being a bit more visible so that the parents understand that there actually is a bus that their kids could use as an option. I think that's super helpful. There's still discussions going on about what Measure A in 2020 might look like for transportation funding, but STA isn't meeting again until next month. So we haven't had a regional SAN meeting lately. Please drive careful. I was driving back from the bank this afternoon. No, in fact, I was over at Hampton Inn. As I'm coming back along East Bidwell, 4 people ran the red light, turning left, going up to Costco. They must have been in like a super huge rush to get that toilet paper. Because I don't understand why if you're going to Costco, there could be that much of a rush. And these are people driving minivans that probably had kids in the back. It's just frightening. So please drive carefully. Those lights actually mean you. Great job, Folsom Fire, over the weekend. I was going boating with some friends and let your guys pull around. And then actually they were having trouble getting the Zodiac started. So they asked if they could come with us and do their training with us if they couldn't get it to run. But they did, fortunately, get it running. So great job. And there's been, both police and fire have done a lot of super good work in the last couple of weeks, catching criminals and saving people. And every single person in the city of Folsom owes all of you guys a big thank you, starting with me. So with that, we are adjourned at 9 o'clock.